What is up, everybody? The pregame HQ is here to go over the 2020 season. And what we're going to do is we're going to start with the running backs because, that's one of the most important quarterback. Matthew, you tell me before I even get into it. What do you think is more important, quarterbacks or running backs in fantasy football?
You got to get those running backs in first. You know, there's that tier of running back that's going to make that difference. And then there's a drop off that you don't see quite at quarterback. So you got to get those running backs in and locked in to go.
Okay, good. Because if you said quarterbacks, I was going to have to kick you off right in the beginning. You would have been gone. But it's going to be the first video of a series. We're starting with the top 24 running backs, and we're just going to go over the top 24 from 2020. We're going to say a pro and a con for each top 24 running back, and we're going to see how it goes. This is just to give you a different opinion on the dynasty aspect we see for these players. Because, running backs, that landscape is ever changing. Matt, tell them where they can find you on Twitter, just so they know.
I'm at Peak FF9. That's PEAK FF9.
And you can find me, Nuggie_Wuggy. It is NUGGIE_WUGGIE. That's been my name for a very long time, since I was like 3 years old. So I'm just running with it. Let's get on started then.
Let's go.
Let's start with the number one, right? I'm not going to do that. No bullshit. Start with 24, go down. No, first is best. Alvin Kamara. Matt, tell me your pro for Alvin Kamara.
What can't you say good about Alvin Kamara? He's averaging 250 touches per season in his first 4 seasons on an elite offense. It's clear that Sean Payton loves him. He knows how to scheme him into that offense, and a third of those touches are receptions. And that's huge when you get into that PPR boost. He was getting 81 receptions per season, those first 3 seasons. I was really disappointed he didn't hit it again. I love consistency, but he got 83. So we can say he's even improving his game there, and he had 3 finishes outside the top 10 all season. So he's consistently there. He's got that solid floor. 2 of those 3 finishes outside the top 10 were without Breeze. So you saw that dip there when they had Taysom Hill in at quarterback, and 6 top 3 finishes. It doesn't get much better than that, including that monster game in the fantasy championship. There's not a lot to hate on regarding Alvin Kamara.
Well, I do have to shout out just because it was Elvin, but I beat Elvin in a league in the championship because I had AK. Oh, that was a good Christmas.
But, rub his own player into his face.
Exactly. And my con is, you talked about it, Breeze. He announced his retirement, if I'm correct, right? He's done for sure. Well, I worry about what's going to happen without Breeze. But we had to come up with a con, so I had to say something.
Yeah.
I know Sean Payton's going to be able to scheme him into the action, but I'm just worried that it's going to be a little bit of a drop-off. So I don't expect him to be number 1 next year, but I definitely expect him to take a little, maybe top 5. I would definitely, that's how I feel. And his rushing work. He was the 12th ranked RB on rushing work. When it comes to the top 5, you have to be a little picky when you're talking about cons. So for me, that's what I saw. And it's just, we'll see what happens next year, but I picture him top 5. I just want to see who they get at quarterback.
Absolutely. That's going to be key. That drop off, he was averaging 6.6 receptions with Breeze in the lineup. And then when he went out, you got 2.5 receptions per game. And so, that drop off is huge when you get that PPR bump. And like you said, the rushing work, that rushing floor, it's just not there. He's not getting, while his work is solid and he's, making the most of it, when you're only getting a few, 12 to 16 rushes per game, that does cap your upside in that piece.
So I do have a question for you. Who has better hands, Alvin Kamara or you? Because I saw you just no look catch that headphone right now. I saw that. You definitely caught that.
Yeah, I'd say he probably has better hands, but I probably got the better hand-eye coordination as far as, I can still focus here on the video, but I got the catch.
Nobody would probably notice if I didn't say anything, but I had to point it out. All right,
Perfect.
Enough about Alvin Kamara. This is who without even looking, I thought was going to be the number one. Dalvin Cook. The pros for me is we have concerns about injury with him, but he comes back-to-back 14-game seasons. For a cowbell running back, you can't really complain about that. You can't get upset about him missing 2 games on the year. It's just these are NFL players getting hit by big-ass men. They need a 2-game rest. You can't even be upset about that. And health concerns, no longer an issue for me. What about you? Tell me a con that you have for Dalvin Cook.
He's in that running back friendly offense there. That's a great sign. But the Vikings defense took a step back, this year. And that's kind of big. You got to have that elite defense to pair with that running back. That's going to get them a lot more looks. They're taking a step back. They're giving up a lot of points. That's going to lead to some more passing work and some more deep field looks. And so I think that kind of caps it a little bit. They need to get that defense shored up a little bit to help him out. And again, they can run the clock with him, but again, 14-game season. One of those missed games was after the fantasy season, so you can't fault that at all. Just one game that was affected for you during your fantasy season. This guy is an absolute workhorse, amazing running back. And he hit career highs, this year in rushes. So he had 312 rush attempts, 1,557 rushing yards, 17 touchdowns, and only 3 out of the 14 games he played in, he didn't have a touchdown. So he's consistent getting in the end zone too.
Wow. I missed that stat. That's amazing. And you mentioned something that I was concerned with as well. They have Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen on the team. They're going to start to pass more, especially with that weaker defense. So I am a little concerned about his usage going forward. But again, somebody I fully expect to be in the top 5 again next year.
No doubt.
All right. The beast, the train, Derrick Henry. That is a man's man. Holy shit. What my notes on here, his pro, was that he can go get 200 yards when he wants to. He was 223 yards away from 2,000 on the last game of the year. And he said, okay, no big deal. I'm going to go do that. How many, look this up, got busy, but do you know off the top of your head how many 250-yard games there have been in the NFL? It's like there's only a handful.
There's a handful there, yeah, not many at all.
And he just did it. He was like, okay, you 223? Nah, 250. That is extraordinary. I hate to give you back-to-back cons on players, but I had to steal that because that man is he is a beast. You know what? We don't even need to talk about his con. You give me a pro right now for Derrick Henry if you want.
I mean, you said it. He makes it look so easy. He had 378 rushing attempts this season, and the next closest was 312. I mean, that gap there is just unreal. 17 touchdowns. Are you kidding me? And he just makes it look so freaking easy week in and week out. The Titans love him. He has no real competition in that backfield right now. Until they bring in somebody that can threaten that. I mean, Jeremy McNichols, Darrington Evans, they aren't it. Until they bring in any real competition in, we're leaning into Derrick Henry hard and heavy for the next few seasons. I mean, this guy is just, it's unreal watching this guy. He is
I know
insane.
we can go into the carries, but this man's just built different. 100% just built to be an extraordinary player. All right, I'm going to let you take this pro for the next one because I'm a little mad at myself for this one. But David Montgomery, number 4 back in PPR rankings. What were you excited for about him?
I mean, you look at that end of the season, consistently good. His running back finishes in his last 6 games, running back 6, running back 1, running back 6, running back 2, running back 8, running back 5. I mean, you're getting a top 8 running back week in and week out there at the end of the season when it mattered most. He helped carry them to the playoffs. 10 touchdowns on the year. He finally eclipsed that 1,000-yard rushing mark, and they showed that they trust him in the passing work. Now, this next pro, it can also kind of be seen as a con. He is a master of good matchups. So those last 6 games that he played in, those were just fantastic matchups. He should have and did smash in those. And you look at the other games in the season, when he had a bad matchup, it wasn't there. And so that's kind of a pro and a con. When he gets a good matchup, you know you're going to do well there.
Yeah, and the reason I said I was upset is because the beginning of the Dynasty season, I don't know when the beginning is. I don't think it never ends for me personally, but it was probably January, February, around March. And people were really devaluing him, and I let it get to me. I didn't trust my gut, and it's because of my con, because he's on the Bears. He is on a team that has not been the best, and you know what? Touchdowns are hard to come by for this team. So it really just if the Bears can improve, I can definitely see him in top 10 next year. But to make it in the top 5 again would have to really be, he'd have to go just berserk. I don't see it happening, but I mean maybe top 12. I would place some money on top 12 because I am a gambling man. What can I say?
Yeah.
Now we're gonna be jumping to Aajones. Aajones, 5.5 yards per carry. That's like
wow,
extraordinary. They say if you can get 3 yards of play, or they say if you can get 4 yards of play, you're gonna win the game because 3 plays, that's a first down. That's all you have to do. Now he goes, 3 plays? I can do that in 2. Like that is amazing how well he runs, how well he's really fit into this Green Bay team, and just what he's been able to do these last 2 years. Do you have any cons for him?
I mean, there's, is he going to be back with Green Bay? We don't know. Now that's kind of a double-edged sword. We don't know where he's going to be, but at the same time, if a team's going to go out and pay up for him, they're obviously going to use him. And you're also getting out of that sort of committee worry that you have with Green Bay that you've had all these years. And so, that's a pro and a con there. He had a couple of games in there, of 10 points, 13 points that can kind of leave you high and dry, especially if you have him as your RB1. So you definitely have those drops there a few weeks. But I mean, again, the talent is there. That yards average per carry is just insane. And, and to finish top 5 amazing with his injuries. Yeah, it's just, he's a solid guy.
All right. So this next guy, number 6. Now we're looking 6 through 10. And we're going to start with somebody. If this is like a normal excitement for a player, I'm like up here. And yes, I know you can't see it on the screen because that's how high I am. So I'm going to let you choose. Matt, do you want to do the pro or the con for this guy? Because I could do either or, but I'll let you know my con's going to be very short.
I'll take the cons then. You go on it. This is your dude. Take it off. Yeah. Take it away.
I will pay up for this guy. I made 2 trades for JT this year. I traded before the 103, the 111, and Carson Wentz in a single quarterback league for JT. Wow. Then I traded Devin Singletary, Terry McLaurin, and Mike Evans for JT. I'm not afraid to pay up to get my guy. I know I overpaid. I'm not going to sit here and say I didn't. But I know I got a generational running back, and I'm excited to see what he can offer. And he's young. That's part of my pros. He is very young, and I love that. And you know what I love most? We saw him improve on the year. Yeah. He just kept on getting better. And that's what you want to see in a player that's going to take that next step, and they're able to get better. And then how can you not have the O-line as a pro? You can only be so good, and it depends on your team. And he has a great offensive line. And the last one, he has great hands. Do you know how many passes he dropped or he did not catch last year out of the 39? That he only dropped 3. He was 36 for 39. Weren't we concerned about his hands coming into this a little bit? I wasn't, but I know some people were. All right, I know I talked a lot about him. I get all excited when it comes to JT. Well, why don't you tell me a con, or maybe even go with the pro if you're feeling it?
Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot of cons to this guy. Like you said, he's young. He improved throughout the season. But for some reason, even up until week 17, they insisted on getting Nyheim Hines involved in some manner, some form. He was stealing work. And, kind of tie into that. You said, his hands were great. He only dropped 3 passes all year. Well, we're losing the dump off king, Phillip Rivers, in Indianapolis this year. So, you're going to lose some of that passing work in the process, so but who do they bring in at quarterback? Is there somebody else? And they're going to scheme this guy in. He was incredible to finish out. I mean, 15.4 those last 6 games. It's very indicative of what we'll see going forward, and so much more. The ceiling, in the words of the great Michael Jordan, the ceiling is the roof, and he is going to soar through it, no doubt, next year.
You actually gave me a really good thought or idea. Hey, let me know what you think about this. So Phillip Rivers is the dump-off king. Well, what happens if the dump-off king leaves? Are they going to have that scat back and Nyheim Hines on the field as much? Because his carries most likely came because they were like, well, we can't throw the ball every time he's on the field. We need to run the ball so they don't predict it's going to be a throw. Yeah. Well, what if he's gone? I think that could potentially, well, we know Phillip Rivers is gone, obviously. But what if they do not bring in a quarterback that throws a lot to the running back? I think that can improve because they see how great of a talent JT is. I don't think they're going to have him on the bench very often.
Yeah, that's a perfect point. I mean, that's going to lessen Nyheim Hines being on the field. And JTT, I mean, he's just going to take off running, man, behind that offensive line and that system. Woo, good luck next year.
You got to cut me off before I keep on. I can go. We can do a whole video about him. But James Robinson, did you pick him up on the waiver wires at all?
I didn't. I missed out. I did end up drafting him as a lottery ticket in one of my leagues, and I traded for him, got him on the cheap actually in one of my Dynasty leagues early in the season before he really took off. And so I had a couple of shares of him, but wasn't lucky enough to find him on the waivers, unfortunately.
I didn't get a single one of him. That was my greatest mistake in 2020. I did not play the waiver wires enough. But the pros for him were he took all of the carries in Jacksonville. But I mean, I imagine you're going to tell me what the con is because I think we have the same one. Why don't you tell me what it is?
I mean, the biggest thing is he's got no draft capital to his name, and he's got to survive this offseason of change. There's so much change going on in that franchise. New coach, new front office guys. You're going to have a new quarterback. Who's to say they don't go out and draft a running back to go along with Trevor Lawrence and, James Robinson just like that as a backup. You never know.
And that's what I'm expecting because look at this draft capital they have in the first 4 rounds. The 1st overall, the 25th overall, the 34th overall, the 47th overall, the 65th overall, the 98th overall, and the 121st pick overall. That is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 picks in the top 120. That is extraordinary. That can change their team. I think they're going to target a running back in that 34 to 65 range, whether it be a stud or somebody that could potentially back them up. But that's early third or second round. You're getting a good running back still. Yeah. So, and the next one, sophomore season, Josh Jacobs. He didn't look good. It wasn't the Josh Jacobs you were expecting. And that's definitely going to be my con. And whenever because I don't really follow the rankings a lot. I know who's doing well because I watch every damn game. But I didn't expect him to be number 8. And he had 3.9 yards per carry. That's going down from what he had done his rookie season. So you don't want to see that. Do you have some pros for him, though? Because he's still a great player.
Yeah, I mean, he had some boom games throughout the season, so he's boom or bust. So you could plug him in as your RB2 potentially and look for some of these games. You know, he had games of 36 PPR points, 23, 30, 20, 21. Those are solid weeks, some matchup winning weeks throughout there. But I mean, you got to take your lumps with it too, because there's so many busts throughout there. And one of the biggest things, and they showed us this before the season, you know, they don't fully trust him with the full workload. They're bringing in all these guys, you know, Theo Riddick and Devontae Booker's getting work out there. And so, you know, do they fully trust this guy going into next season? And then you have the, you know, all the legal trouble that he's in right now. You got potential suspension coming into next year. And, you know, it's just, there's so much up in the air with him. And yeah, like you said, he regressed there for sure with those yards average there.
Yeah. The next player, Cowboys Nation, Ezekiel Elliott. My con for him is definitely going to be the end of the season. If we take a look at him, he had 4 20-point games in the whole season, right? Well, 4 of those came in the first 5 games. Once Dak went down, he struggled. And we still don't know what's going to happen with Dak. He hasn't been signed yet. I think they would be stupid not to sign him. But it's still a concern for us. I sold low on him this season. I was in a package deal to get Chris Carson and Austin Eckler. I was making a push for the ship in another league, and it just I'm not excited for him going forward. I know he can be a top 10 back. He's obviously a top 10 back this year, number 9. But for the long-term value of him, I don't see it as what he was commanding a year ago today. But I need you to tell me some pros, because maybe, you know, I'm going to do more startup drafts, or maybe I'll target him in the 3rd round if he's still there.
Yeah, I mean, one of the big things, you know, you talked about the beginning of the season. He had top 13 finishes every week through week 5 before Dak got hurt. And, you know, that QB carousel that they were on, even if they don't bring Dak back, you can't possibly expect them not to address that quarterback situation in some other way and get him some help back in that backfield. You know, I mean, he was so reliable. I was so high on him coming into the season. I had him above Saquon in my rankings, and I was taking him all over the place above Saquon. And I mean, ultimately that worked out, but he was not the guy that I was expecting him to be this season. And such a roller coaster. You know, he had some solid weeks there at the beginning, but then so many weeks where he just let you down and lost you your week because he's not that same guy once Dak was out.
It's funny that you said that, because I took him 102 after McCaffrey as well in the league. That offense, it was so powerful. It had so many great weapons. I was really excited, and I was disappointed. But hey, you can't win them all. All right, Rounding out our top 10. Hunt. Look at him be back in the spotlight. And my pros I want to talk about with him is he was involved even when Nick Chubb was playing and when he was healthy. He didn't go berserk like we were expecting when Chubb got hurt. He did good. But I just love how he still puts up a decent RB2 game every single week, no matter if Nick Chubb is there. So that was nice to see. Do you have anything bad you have to say about Kareem Hunt?
I mean, just looking into his stats, diving in a little bit deeper, and I actually did a thread of this on Twitter. He was pretty TD dependent. He had 8 games with no touchdowns. He had 1 RB13 finish, and the rest in those 8 games with no touchdown, 1 RB13 finish, and the rest he was RB24 to 50. So that's not what you want to see. If you don't get that touchdown, you got to have some sort of floor, whether it's in the rushing game, the passing game. You have to have something there to get you through. And then you look at once Chubb came back, Chubb getting a lot of those red zone touches. And, you know, you said he did pretty well without Chubb there, but there was some disappointment. He wasn't what everybody thought he should be. RB 14, 32, 8, and 30 in those weeks. Some good finishes, but he could have been so much more. Now you can kind of come back and say, that offense, that team as a whole was still trying to find their identity. And so, you can kind of give him some grace there, but ultimately, he's, he'll be solid for you, especially in PPR. He's got that passing game prowess, but not somebody that I'm willing to lean on moving forward.
So to me, it sounds like, hence, our number 11 player is the biggest con for Kareem Hunt. So with that being said, let's jump into 11 through 15. I'm not even going to intro this. Matt, hit your boy. Talk about your boy right now. Tell him about Chubb.
Oh, number 11. Yeah, Nick Chubb. Oh, so much good to say about this guy. An RB 11 finish, despite missing 4 games and sharing the backfield with Kareem Hunt. Absolutely unreal. Week 1, he had 6 points. You felt like, oh, maybe it's not quite there. And then week 4, when he got hurt, he had another 6-point game. But outside of that, when he was playing, when he was not injured, he had that 11-point floor. He's not going to let you down completely. Never finished outside top 22 running backs on the season, other than the week 1 and the week that he was injured. That's it. And I mean, this guy, you watch him play, one of the best pure runners in the game. He's in an RB-friendly system. And you saw there at the end of the season and going into the playoffs, Cleveland started to find out their identity. They started to play the game kind of like you see in Tennessee, where Baker Mayfield is that Ryan Tannehill type. He's nice and consistent. He gets the job done, and they lean on that running game hard. And Chubb just looked fantastic. I am so excited for this guy. I'm trying to get him everywhere. If there's going to be those people out there who are still nervous about Kareem Hunt being in that same backfield, take advantage of that. Take full advantage of that, whether it's in a trade in your Dynasty League or in a redraft trying to get him. You might even be able to get him as your RB2, in some leagues, if people are really worried about that. This guy is the real deal. I can't wait for next season.
And you nailed it right on the head. He is an amazing player, but my only concern is Kareem Hunt. I couldn't come up with anything else to be concerned about with him. He is, just an absolute phenomenal generational running back. However, Kareem Hunt is a great running back as well. And if Cleveland gets the idea that they want to involve him more, that will bring a little concern. That's all I have. That's the only thing. Other than that, he's the best pure runner in the league, in my opinion.
Yeah, no doubt.
All right. This one's tough, and this next one's tough to talk about for dynasty purposes. Mm-hmm. Mike Davis coming in at number 12. And we all know why. Christian McCaffrey was hurt. And what did he do? He came in, and this is my pro. He came in and was a dual threat player. He was like 60% of Christian McCaffrey. And that's going to get you in the top 12, being 60% of Christian McCaffrey, because he's an absolute stud. And he had the target share. He had the rushing share. He had it all. He fell off a little bit at the end of the year, but he just did his job. He's a good backup. There's got to be some cons. Matt, you got to tell me those, because I know there are plenty.
Yeah, you nailed it. You're going to have CMC back next year. That's going to limit what Mike Davis is going to do. He had, even in CMC's absence, you had that bad stretch of games, week 7 through 10, where he was scoring 9 or 8 points on the week, and so many people were leaning on him. And that is a killer right there for your team if you have him in your lineup. But like you said, you nailed it on the head. I think he's going to be a pretty good dart throw at the end of redrafts. And if you can reach out to the Mike Davis owner in your Dynasty League and see if you can get him on the cheap, he's a solid guy to have on your bench, because he did prove for so many weeks that he was a capable guy, and he might even get a little bit of work even when Christian McCaffrey is healthy. But if something happens to Christian McCaffrey again next year, you've got yourself a lottery ticket that you're going to cash in and be able to ride pretty well. And that team, that offense is on the rise. And so you're going to probably see improvements there as well.
Yeah, and he is 27, so I'll point that out as a con. As a backup running back, that's not a good look. All right, number 13. The third rookie we've had so far, Antonio Gibson. I'm taking this one because it is a hype train for Antonio Gibson. I mean, I just love this guy. I'm looking at my notes right now. 4.7 yards per carry. Feed him. Give him the ball more, please. We need that because people weren't excited. Yes, there's the truthers out there for every guy, but I don't think a lot of people were expecting him to put up 4.7 yards per carry going into this year, especially with that freaking crowded backfield that they have there. I know I was getting into the cons, but why don't you take over for the cons for me?
Yeah, I mean, you saw it in games that they were down. They leaned a little bit more on J.D. McKissic, especially in the passing game. McKissic, showed that he could be trusted there and kind of took away from Gibson in those games that they were down. And, Gibson against good defenses was so. He still got you pretty solid weeks, but, when you had those bad matchups, he was the guy that you wanted to maybe temper your expectations a little bit and get him out of there. So, going forward, I do think they place more trust in him. But again, this system, Coach Rivera, they showed that they have that trust in J.D. McKissic. He had his best season to date. And so I think that's going to kind of limit Gibson's ceiling. But if he is unleashed, absolutely go get him and look out, NFL. Oh, man.
All right, I just traded for him, and I want you to tell me what you think. Tyreek Hill and the 109 in a Superflex league for Tua, Antonio Gibson, and Laviska Shenault.
I like that in a Superflex league. I'm gonna take that for sure. You've got
tough though.
Yeah, it is.
I'm
gonna take the upside of Tua. They're gonna get better over there. And then you got Shenault with that pairing up with Trevor Lawrence. And then you got your guy, Antonio Gibson. Give me those shots. The upside there is unreal. Who knows what you're going to get with the 109? And yeah, you're giving up Tyreek, but give me the upside of those three. You don't know where they're going to go, and it's going to improve your depth. And so, yeah, give me that for sure.
It was definitely a tough choice to give up Tyreek. He was we're coming into the third year, and he was my first overall pick in a league, my home league with my boys, a Dynasty league I started. We kept everybody for the 3 years, so it's been a lot of fun, but I couldn't turn down that deal. Yeah. All right, next, Melvin Gordon. The cons. The cons are obvious. 27 years old. And this one actually might not be as obvious. He had 8 games last year with 10 or less points. That wrecks your team. That wrecks your week. You can't have that if you're relying on him. Say for whatever reason, he's strong for the drop straight, but you go RB heavy. Or you go wide receiver or 0 RB. You go wide receiver heavy, and Melvin Gordon's your number 1 or number 2. That's gonna break you. Having 10 or less points, 8 games. That is tough. But like there's cons, there's definitely pros. Why don't you tell us what the pros are?
Yeah, I mean, he's a 1,000-yard rusher. He hit 1,054 total yards and 10 touchdowns. You can't complain about that too much. He had strong defense on the other side there. They dealt with some injuries, so they kind of struggled there a little bit. But you got that strong defense to pair with that rushing game in a run-heavy system. And the offense should only get better next season. Melvin Gordon, he's got a nose for the end zone when they get into the red zone, which with that offense wasn't too often this year. But when they get into the red zone, he's going to find that end zone almost every time. But yeah, you nailed it with the cons. Not somebody you want to lean on. If I can have him as maybe one of my flexes and plug him in on those weeks where he hits, then great. But he's a killer.
Yeah. Yep. No, I 100% get what you're saying. All right, let's round out the top 15. Can you hear my pup going crazy in the background?
Yeah. She's excited for this one.
Spoiled. Hey, she's really excited for this one. I'm not, but she is. Nyheim Hines. If I had to come up with the pro for him, obvious, the passing one. He is scat back. He's the definition of what you're looking for in a scat back. But that is not something that he's not a 3-down back. I'm getting into the cons. I'm gonna talk about how he's played 16 games every single season. In his 3 seasons, he's played 16 games. So which tells me, yeah, scat backs are usually smaller, but he hasn't been hurt at all. That's pretty damn good. I'm leaving you with the cons though.
All right. I mean, pretty straightforward with this one. Jonathan Taylor is the clear lead back now. He took over after, with that strong finish. And then, we covered it into the Jonathan Taylor talk. We're losing Phillip Rivers, which not only may limit the dump offs to see Nyheim Hines, but you brought up that great point. We might see him on the field even less with this as they lean into Jonathan Taylor and that awesome offensive line. And so not a whole lot to like with Nyheim Hines. He had some of those boom weeks. He had 4 top 30 finishes. That's pretty good, again, for like a flex style player where you can kind of plug him in matchups. You see him going off, but overall, not a whole lot to like there for sure.
All right, right off the top of your head, if I offered you a 2021 third-round pick, middle, would you take it for Nyheim Hines?
Yeah, I think I'd go there. Yeah.
I wouldn't offer it to you because I'd take the third as well, just because especially he has the free agent concerns. He is a free agent this year. Who knows if they're going to bring back Marlon Mack, if they're going to bring back Nyheim Hines. A lot of questions, and they're competing against JT, the stud JT. But that was the 15. Let's take a moment. Who were you most surprised was in the top 15?
I mean, Nick Chubb, I'll be honest with you, when I first started looking into this, to see Nick Chubb at 11 and kind of remember back to, he missed those 4 games. How in the world is this guy a top 12 running back after missing 4 games? And you add in Kareem Hunt into that backfield. And so that was a positive surprise for me to see that. And that's where he kind of took off in my head as like, this is my dude. I am riding this guy into next season. And then, I mean, Nyheim Hines, he had, that big week 1. He had a few of those big games when JT was still trying to find his feet. But to see him in the top 15 was kind of surreal, kind of says something about the rest of the group that somehow did not make their way up there.
Exactly. And for me, it was definitely going to be Melvin Gordon was the biggest surprise for me. I know we're picking on the 15 and 14, but still, from what I saw from Melvin Gordon, maybe I only watched the 8 games he had 10 points or less of him because I didn't watch a lot of Broncos games, but I was not impressed. But we're over halfway done. We're jumping and talking about Kenyon Drake. Coming in at number 16, Kenyon Drake. But we're going to skip to that one because, I mean, the pros, it's tough to come up with some pros for him. I guess I could say the Cardinals keep getting better year over year, and he's on a better team. They like to throw the ball to running backs, but he wasn't involved. I mean, maybe you touch a little bit on pros and cons with him because I struggled, and I think you tell me you did as well.
Yeah, I mean, looking into pros, there's not a whole lot moving forward. But looking back at this year, you can look and see, week 6 against Dallas, he had 28 points. He just absolutely went off there. He had some other solid games, a 24-point week, a 16-point week. And so he wasn't just absolutely abysmal all year. And so he still got that potential to have those good weeks moving forward. But yeah, I mean, there's so much uncertainty with him. He was playing on the 1-year transition tag this year. So will he be back in Arizona? You got, even if he does stay, you got Chase Edmonds waiting in the wings, waiting to take over. He's been looking solid. And Drake, ultimately, those good weeks, he's very touchdown dependent. And so you got to get him to find the end zone or you're going to be extremely disappointed that he's in your lineup.
Yep, I feel the same way. But this, for me, was the biggest surprise of the top 24. Two, not one, but two Washington football in the top 17. And we went over Gibson at 13, but McKissic comes in at 17. He had 80 catches. That is great. That is PPR game changing. And the price you could have got him for, I remember doing because I was doing my breakdown for who I needed to drop coming into the rookie draft, and he if I needed one more spot, it would have been McKissic I would have dropped. And luckily I kept him. It was nice to be able to plug him in because we have multiple flex, so it was great. But man, I was stoked to see that and very surprised. But there's going to be cons. Matt, tell us.
Yeah, he's very limited in his rushing work. He's the PPR machine. He had 5 games over 10 targets, but with that comes extremely limited rushing work. So that's going to limit that floor there. And when he gets in the game, they didn't really fully utilize him unless they were behind. He only had 2 games with 11 or more rushes. And even in those games, he only reached 68 yards and 51 yards. And so they weren't great games. He never really took off in the running game. And so that really caps his upside. And you see that team is clearly going to improve. The changes that Ron Rivera made this year in the culture and everything, the team's going to get better. And so we're going to see a little bit less of JD McKissic, especially as Gibson starts to come on. It's Gibbs season.
Exactly. And I'm hoping for that. This next guy, 18, we have another rookie. And we haven't talked about this guy much, so I'm going to let you choose. DeAndre Swift. How do you feel about him? Would you like to take the pro or the con?
I'll take the pro.
Okay.
All right. So, he's got a pretty clear path now to being an every down back. You look at it, he started to come on there. He's got the passing game work under him now. Their new coach, Dan Campbell, came out and said, they want to see him get a little bit more one-on-one with the linebackers, which is something you want to hear with your running backs. They want to get him to the open field. They're going to get him more involved. It's a traditionally run-first offense. He's got a new quarterback that's pairing with him now. I was worried there for a little bit, a Stafford on the block. Who's going to be their quarterback? It's probably not going to be good as a whole for the offense, but I think getting Jared Goff in there kind of eased my mind a little bit. Not that Goff's some sort of savior or anything, but it at least keeps it where you got a decent quarterback in there. And so they're not going to key in on Swift every single play, and they're going to get him open. They want to get him more involved, and that's huge.
Yeah. About that trade, the only reason I worry is I'm a Rams fan. I know what it's like to have Jared Goff as a quarterback. And if they're not able to establish the run and then the play action, Jared Goff is going to struggle. So when teams play us, what are they looking to do? They're looking to really focus and stop the run in the beginning of the game, because if you can make Jared Goff throw the ball a lot, he's going to make mistakes. So if he starts going up against lopsided boxes, that's going to start causing problems, because it's not like the Lions have the best offensive line in the league. It's not like they're the bottom, but they're not extraordinary to be able to beat out other teams when they have more people in the box. So that is a concern of mine. And just the Lions, same like the Bears, they've struggled. There's not going to be a lot of scoring opportunities. And, that's a touchdown is 60 yards. A touchdown is 6 catches. That's a good amount of points. You get 2 touchdowns, you're happy. That's 12 points. And so I worry about how many times he's going to have the opportunity to score.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else you have to say about him?
No, you nailed it. He's on a bad team. So you got your words there. They're entering what seems to be a full rebuild. And so, is that going to bode well for the scoring opportunities, all that stuff? So yeah, you nailed it for sure.
All right. Number 19, Chris Carson. I'm going to take the con, because I was a little disappointed in him this year. end of 2019 and 2019, he went on an absolute tear. He was one of the backs you wanted to own. But this year, did you know that he did not have a single 100-yard game? 100-yard rushing game. You can't have that in looking to lead your team, or I guess we're closer into the RB 2 to 3 range. So you can't have that. No 100-yard game, especially most leagues I play, you have a bonus when you get to 100 yards. The extra 3 points that does add up. So that was definitely a question mark for me. And the contract situation. He's thrived in Seattle. All running backs are going to thrive in Seattle. I just pulled a DJ Dallas rookie card from a pack. So hey, I'm hoping maybe DJ Dallas comes do some cool things. But hey, we're talking about Chris Carson right now, and I am worried. But do you have some things that are going to be able to, calm my worries a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, you got to look at the rhetoric that the team wants to run more. He's got a strong PPR relationship with Russell Wilson. So, I mean, he gets those dump offs pretty regularly. He had 6 games with 19 plus PPR points, which is really solid. 9 touchdowns, and he fixed the fumbling issue that so many people were worried about in previous years. And so moving forward, if that remains not being a concern, that's going to be great. But you got the question, are they going to bring him back? I personally think they're going to bring him back. I mean, looking at who else they have there, you got a couple of young guys, DJ Dallas, Rashad Penny, who we haven't been able to see yet. Maybe they give them an opportunity, but I think with that relationship, like I said, that he has with Russ and the way that he kind of fits into that offense, there's some potential for them to stick around.
Nice. That's I would want him to stay for fantasy purposes. Like I said earlier, I did trade for him. It's hard. You want the Seattle running back on your team. They're usually going to do very well. Even without a 100-yard game, he averaged 19 point. What points did you say? Like that's damn good.
Yeah.
All right. Now, Ronald Jones coming in at 20. I'm gonna start with the pro. 5 yards per carry. That's Aaron Jones status almost. I know he's getting 5.5, but 5 yards per carry. If you can't tell, I've mentioned the yards per carry a couple of times. I think it's important. It is literally game changing. If you can run the ball and on average get 5 yards, now you're looking at 2nd and 5, 3rd and 5. That is manageable for your team. So if you know that, what are you going to do? You're going to run the ball more. You're going to trust the guy that's doing that. But are they really going to trust him? What are your concerns?
Yeah, I mean, looking at recently, and especially here in the NFL playoffs, which you say, yeah, that doesn't really factor into fantasy, but you got to take a look at that anyway. Here in the playoffs, just last game, Leonard Fournette, you saw him getting so much more involved. Fournette got all 7 of the receptions out of the backfield to Ronald Jones 0. So, yeah, you're right. The question is, are they really going to trust him moving forward? You don't know. Is Fournette going to return? Are they going to bring somebody else in? And you can definitely see there's still those doubts, those concerns there within the team. And so as a fantasy owner, you got to have concerns there personally as well.
Yep. Well, that rounds out the top 20. So we had some great players overall in the top 20. I'm really excited for most of their long-term value. Of course, there's some players that I don't think have a lot of dynasty value, but hey, I've been wrong once before. Only once I've been wrong. So maybe this will be the 2nd time. Just kidding, of course. All right, let's jump into number 21. It seems like right at these breaks, we have players that we don't even know what to say. So we're just going to go real fast. Did well with the new team. However, that team has a lot of concerns. What do you got for him? It's what it is with David Johnson.
Yeah, I mean, Bill O'Brien, the guy that clearly adored David Johnson, is out the door. What is the new regime going to do with him? Do they have any attachment to him? He was inconsistent all year. He had injury concerns. He's not getting any younger. If you want to pull some positives out of there, it's similar to Kenyon Drake. He had some strong weeks in there, especially to close the season. He finished weeks 15 through 17 with 24, 29, and 21 PPR points, which was huge in the fantasy playoffs. But at the same time, if you had David Johnson, were you really in that championship? I'm not so sure. If he was able to get you there.
I was. But that's because I had Alvin Kamara and Dalvin Cook on that team. So, yes.
He wasn't the one that got you there, yeah.
No. He helped me win it. But now we need to look at number 22 because I'm done talking about old man David Johnson. Yeah. Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Nobody wanted him out of the top 20. Nobody was expecting him out of the top 20 on that team. But I'm not disappointed at all. People are doubting him, just like they doubted David Montgomery last year, and see where that got them. He's still on the top team in the NFL. He only had 5 touchdowns last year. You telling me he's going to score 5 touchdowns again next year on the Chiefs, who are going to have Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes, and Travis Kelce again next year? What the hell is wrong with you if you think that's actually going to happen? I know there are concerns. You get mad. You got to keep it short because I know there's not many. It's okay if you skip this one. I'll understand.
Oh, absolutely. There's not a whole lot. Well, something really quick to piggyback off of what you said. He had 5 touchdowns called back this year. And so if you take away, and so if he gets those touchdowns, that makes a completely different story. He would be up there around RB10 on the year, and we'd be singing a whole different tune. But I'm like you. I have not lost confidence in this guy. He's on the best offense in the league. My only concern is the Kansas City offense can score any way they want. And so who's to say when they get close to the goal line that they're going to run the ball in? They can hit Travis Kelce real easy right in the middle of the field. You got Tyreek and Hardman going every which way. So, they can score however they want. And so does that limit him a little bit? But I'm with you. Let's move on. I mean, this guy is he's the real deal, and he's going to come on strong next year.
Definitely. I'm really excited. All right. Miles Sanders. I drafted him top 5 everywhere I could. I'm not gonna lie. I love this player. Top 23. Not top 23. He was 23 with 5.3 yards per carry. Again, that's great. That's what we want to see. And he showed he can break off a long run, which is something we see in Derrick Henry. I know he's nowhere near what Derrick Henry is, and they don't play anywhere the same. But it's nice to know your running back can break off an 80-yard run. That's good to see. And just those big plays they're fun as fantasy owners. Like, oh my goodness, you know how many crazy looks my girlfriend's giving me as I'm getting hyped for long runs by my running backs or long plays? That is fun, and fantasy football is supposed to be fun. They got a new coaching. We know Doug Peterson doesn't want to lean on one running back, so we're going to have to see what happens now that he's gone. All right. I'm leaving you with the con on this one.
I mean, you kind of hit it here. I can use that as a con too. There's lots of change this offseason. What are we going to see? One of the positives of this change, I don't think they have the draft capital. They have so many other concerns. I don't think they're going to bring in another running back necessarily. But if you look on the season, several games that he hit and made his fantasy managers happy, it was like the difference of, that big play or finding the end zone. If he didn't have that one big play, that one touchdown, he would have been a complete bust, left you crying on the seat, and your girlfriend would have been looking at you weird anyway with you crying instead. So, I mean, you got that.
She looks at me weird. Sure. She looks at me weird a lot.
I understand.
Let's round it out. 24. I'm going to let you choose. I've been talking a lot, so J.K. Dobbins. Take it, Matt.
All right. Well, I mean, another young guy, another rookie that we saw absolutely take off. Beginning of the year, they weren't really giving him that opportunity. We were saying, get the ball to Dobbins, go, or get the ball to Dobbins more. He'd have 1 or 2 carries on the game and would look so explosive with it. And then finally, we saw that all come to fruition with his last 6 games. I mean, just unreal finishes. He had 19, 13, 13, 15, 14, and 28 fantasy points in those weeks. Absolutely huge. If you had him there in that fantasy championship, very potentially would have won that for you. I mean, it's only up for this guy. You know, Mark Ingram's going to be gone, and he's on that offense again that wants to run the ball a lot. But you got your concerns there too. Maybe you got the same concerns I got.
I think I may, and it is the fact is I didn't know if you were going to mention it, but he is on the running team of the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, the premier running team. However, that's mostly in part because not mostly. That is in part because of their quarterback, Lamar Jackson. He's going to take away goal line opportunities. He's going to break off for long runs that are going to completely kill a drive, take away a drive. And he's just going to run the ball, and they're good. So they I don't know. I'm trying to find concerns because there's not a lot for him because he's a great talent. I guess the only thing I have to say is no matter if they bring in another back or if they keep Gus Edwards or whatever they do with him, he is going to be competing for touches. And that's not what you want to see in top running backs. No. I do expect him to be in the top 10 next year because he is a great talent and he can ball. But I have to worry about what I see. And that's for me to decide how high I would like to draft him. Any closing statements that you have for this? Because that rounds out our top 24.
No, this was a lot of fun. I mean, again, looking at that list, you know, it's going to vary so much next year. You got some guys coming back. They're going to breach this, but no doubt, I mean, just like everywhere, we're going to have those surprises that come in there, those Nyheim Hines and Melvin Gordons that sneak their way in somehow. And, but no, man, this is good list and a lot to look forward to getting into this off season, shoring up those dynasty rosters and building up a championship.
And you know how you can build up a championship? By checking us out at the Pregame HQ. You're on the YouTube now. It's going to be the same logo. Just literally type in onto Safari, onto Google, the Pregame HQ, and our website will pop up. We have over 35 writers who write content all year long for you. It's for you guys so that you can learn and get better at Dynasty and fantasy football in general. But this is not the only video we are going to do. We will have quarterbacks, wide receivers, tight ends upcoming throughout the next couple weeks. We're not going to set a date because I don't want to miss a deadline or anything, but we will have them coming soon. And what we want you to do now, though, is we want you to tell us which one would you want to hear about first. Do you want to hear about quarterbacks, wide receivers, or tight ends first? Because if you say tight ends, I'm just going to block you and I'm not going to do that because we're saving that one for last for sure. Maybe we might not even do it. I don't want to do top 10 tight ends, top 12 tight ends. Maybe we'll do top 10 and shorten it just a little bit. But hey, this was a lot of fun. Matt, tell them where they can find you on Twitter.
I'm at PeakFF9. That's PeakFF9. Check me out. I'm dropping threads and content on the regular, and check out the Pregame HQ. Some great writers over there.
Honestly, of course, I want them to follow the Pregame HQ, but I don't even think they need to if they follow you, because I have to shout you out. You're always posting the content of your other writers, and if you're a writer watching this, please go give him a follow because he loves reading good content and sharing it for everybody to see. But then again, follow us at the Pregame HQ on Twitter. All right. I'm Nuggy Wuggy. This is Matt. Have a great one. We can't wait to talk at you again soon.
Later, guys.